Hello and welcome to the Q&A portion of the 23rd Annual ARPA International Film Festival. Today I am joined by director and producer Rami Kodai, as well as Noura Mariana Salim, the writer and producer of the short film Alina, which we'll be discussing, which will be shown during the festival via Seed and Spark. So to start off, if I could just have both of you guys introduce yourselves, where you're from, and talk a little bit about your film.
Okay. So I'm Rami, and this is my wife, Noura. I'm originally from Lebanon, but LA based, and born
and raised in LA.
Yeah.
Awesome. Alrighty. Well, what was your inspiration for Alina?
Well, it's a story we wanted to tell for a long time. We started reading about kind of the unsung heroes of World War II. We always kind of knew about Oskar Schindler, but we were surprised to learn about the countless young women who saved even more children. Collectively, they saved 2,500 children in World War II, in Poland specifically. So we just felt that there was something about that story, about the capacity for regular people to perform heroic acts. It just felt very resonant to the time that we live in now. And the challenges that we're facing as a country, just the power that one individual can have in helping others in need.
Gotcha. Awesome. Alrighty. Well, what was your biggest challenge while making this film?
We have a baby that's acting in the film, a 3-month-old baby.
Yeah.
And the baby itself was not the challenge, but everything that's legal to have a baby act in a film, that was the biggest challenge. To have a baby for the whole day, only for 20 minutes, and on set, like inside while we're filming, for 5 minutes, and learning that on the day of the shoot, that was actually a little bit stressful at the time. But we were able to shuffle around our schedules and get by and get luckily everything we need for our short.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. I'm in film school right now, and everybody always says the two big rules are never shoot with animals and never shoot with kids. So I'm sure, yeah, that was probably a bit challenging. Alrighty. So next thing, what did you learn while making Alina?
We were discussing this thing.
Yeah. We've been surprised by how, we always found the story interesting, but we kind of learned that a lot of people who have seen it connected it to their present moment and to their present lives. So even though the film is obviously set in the 40s during the Holocaust, we've been touched by the reaction of people who really identify with the characters, who really felt like they were with them, and who understand the connection to the current moment, just the rise of fascism and the rise of hate and prejudice and the need for people to counter that, with bravery or with love or with compassion. Yeah. So that was really amazing, to us, just to see the reaction of people who watch it and how they're kind of on our same wavelength about how we're seeing the world and how we're looking at history to inform how we want our future to be, how we want to respond to these moments that are unfolding in the current.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Wonderful. Alrighty, I think you guys probably just touched on this, but the next question is, what do you think Alina says about the world we live in?
Well, that just to reiterate what Noura was saying, it's a story about it's basically a story about a gang of women who are saving a little kid who's innocent, like a little baby who's innocent from Nazis, from fascism, right? And it's always good to look at these characters as people to be inspired from in our lives, especially in those days. It's something we wanted to always to present a film that's at the same time entertaining but also sneaking those very important messages, especially in these days. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Alrighty. So the next question, Where can people learn more about your outstanding film?
Well,
Or
thank
you're
you
the
for
social
saying
media
that.
expert.
I mean, just through our personal social media. So, my Instagram is my full name. My
Yeah.
handle is Nora Mariana Salim, and Rami's is Rami.Kodai,
Yeah.
Kodih.
Yours more though. Yeah.
But that's really it so far. We haven't, it's going through. We're very fortunate. Like the film is going through the festival circuit, so we're excited to participate in your festival, and it's going to be making its rounds for the rest of the year. So yeah, they could check our social media to see like when the screenings are.
Yeah, I think I saw before in your thumbnail, you guys have won quite a few of awards, I think, already so far. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's awesome. It was definitely, I think, one of the top ones I've seen so far. So I can't say anything for sure. We don't know anything that's going on, but it was really well done. All right, guys. So yeah, go check out their Instagrams or anything to figure out more information. And then what films have been the most inspiring or influential to you, and why?
Okay, it's
So many.
well, definitely, like all the films that you've been watching, they leave a certain trace in your brain, and sometimes you don't know that this particular film was inspiring or not. But what's also more important than films to us and to me is life itself as an inspiration. I grew up in Lebanon, which is a place that's that experienced several types of wars. So I'm a child of war. So war to me is not something completely foreign to be brought up within.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was a very big inspiration. But to talk also about some movies, I'm gonna list one that was in the conversations with in conversation with the DP and the set designer, and also some camera movements and shot list style, and not sure the editing got, like, I took that from somewhere else, I think. But Children of Men was like something that I look at a lot as an inspiration, and especially when you're trying to do something that's a little ambitious, even if it's within like very minimal budget.
Yeah.
Although Children of Men was not done in a minimal budget, it was done on a very high budget. But at the same time, just getting inspired by some tricks on both terms, emotionally and technically, that was a film that was very, very inspiring to both of us.
Yeah.
I think.
He's very inspiring. I think
Cuarón in general, he's very inspiring. Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of talent, but also because he's an international filmmaker and made that crossover. I think I agree the same, like life is the biggest inspiration.
Yeah.
My mother, I think, was a big inspiration for me with this film. She's a Jewish woman who was raised in what became a dictatorship, and she's 5'3", but using her own guts and guile, like, got her family out. And so I think my interest is always movies and people where it's like looking at everyday women who are able to achieve so much. So a movie that inspires me is Thelma Louise by the great Ridley Scott. And then my mom reminds me of that spirit. So I probably look at movies that remind me of my own heroes in life,
No, I love that how it both kind of comes from within you guys. It's, not just, I was inspired by this film or this, but it comes from you guys and there's stories that you want to have told and you find personally meaningful. And actually something you just touched on that I'm personally curious about is the budget. I was just kind of curious about what your budget was for the film.
We don't tell. Oh. I'm going to speak as a producer.
Okay.
We don't tell. I will say it's modest. And the reason I don't tell is because I think it distracts from the film itself.
Yeah.
But it wasn't extremely high budget, and which is, I think, an encouragement, because you can film a period piece or whatever you want within any budget. You know what I mean? Which was that was the biggest mental challenge for us, was like a lot of films that are made in this time period are very high budget.
Yeah.
And we didn't have anything even close to that. So it's really about thinking of how do you how do you tell a story within a scale that's manageable, that you can do within any budget that you have available to you. So that's
Gotcha.
what I answer.
I also edited myself to save some money as well.
Yes, I saw that.
There's a lot of things like that.
A lot
to
of things
reduce
like
the
that to
budget.
just like.
And we had an amazing line producer, Courtney,
who's also became a producer later on.
Yeah, she became a producer, and she was great. I mean, that's the number one thing I would say I learned was like just find the right line producer.
Yeah.
You know, because she was instrumental in making sure we could pull this film off with not much. So that a lot of that goes to her.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
The one other personal question I had was, how long from start to finish did it take you to make the film? I know that's a big question.
Yeah. Well, prepping it was like for about a month and a half, between a month and 2 months, I think, something like that. Less than 2 months, definitely.
Wow.
6 days shoot. 6 days shoot, and post-production was a little different because we were working on other things, and like sometimes we would stop and then come back to it because of the lack of budget, and because when you're trying to get some favors from in post-production from people, they would say like, we love the project, we want to work on it, but give us a little bit of time if you want us to give you the best deal, right? So those factors were like key players in the time. So I would say like a year from start to finish, but it was a lot of weeks in those in that year were not necessarily
active
dedicated and very active on the project itself. Like it wasn't like every single day we were doing it.
True.
Yeah,
that's true. And it was conceived a couple years before then.
Yeah.
So
okay.
It took time to research it. It took time to.
Like early 2016, you came up with the idea of like, whoa, let's try to make something about
the concept,
the process.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And then another question: did you know you were going to be editing it from the start, or was that something you're like, oh, I'll save money, I'll edit?
It was 80% like I'll edit it. 20% it'll be great to have somebody else to take this this off my shoulders. But like, I always end up editing a project when a project is that close to us, actually. Like it's, when it's something that becomes extremely important.
Yes.
When you as a project, like it becomes like a very, very, very intimate and close connection between you and the project. I end up like editing the project.
Well, the editing on its own was fantastic, and the flow was just it was really great. So awesome job on that. And then was there a particular event or time that you guys recognized that filmmaking was more than just a hobby and, you know, a life for a living? And
for me, it was meeting Rami, to be totally honest with you. I always loved writing. I grew up wanting to write. I studied it. But not screenwriting. For me, film seemed like something for I grew up in LA, but it always felt like you had to come from a different kind of socioeconomic privilege to be able to do. And I'm the daughter of immigrants. It just didn't seem like a feasible dream. And then when I met Rami, it kind of changed because he comes from a more modest background, but was so talented. I knew him first through his work. And he encouraged me to take my passion for writing and I love movies. Like I'm a movie lover, but as an audience. So he helped me get over that fear that I had, or that insecurity that I had, that I didn't belong in the film space. So it was definitely meeting. There's no way I would be in film without meeting Rami.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome.
At all. No.
Yeah. For me, I just was ever since the beginning, like I liked movies, playing them after watching them as a kid, like make believe or pretend. That was really the source. Actually, it was not a camera for me. But then it became the passion for like the camera work and everything came like at 18, 19, once I started accessing cameras at film school. So after finishing high school, I immediately went through to film school in Beirut. And it all started from there, like learning from great professors and having a program in film school that was very rigid. And it was a French program anyway. So yeah, and being forced to be cultured about cinema from when it started, and the history of cinema, history of art, and European movies, old ones, newer ones, Asian movies, Russian movies, like
probably
all
what
that.
You're doing in
Yeah, I mean, like that's when the real passion truly formed. And it really formed in film school, and it became like, that's it. Like I graduated, started working in documentaries and commercials, because the industry of narrative in Lebanon generally is not as it's not the way how it is in Hollywood. But everything that's narrative had to be like a personal initiative. So that's how we were able to make our short films, and also trying to aim for feature films and so on.
Awesome. Yeah, I know a popular saying for film school is, they like to talk about films and not make them. So like you said, the personal initiative to go out there and make your own films with what you learned in classes and stuff. I totally get that for sure. And you were talking about how movies, specific, when you were 18, 19, watching a lot of movies, was there any particular film where you were like, oh, wow, this is inspiring me to, consider this as a job or a hobby, and then, into working?
Breathless.
I know that answer.
Gotcha.
The minute I watched that, because before that you watch like mainstream, like you watch like big movies, Hollywood movies, and a lot of them are like amazing. But there's this area where like you start to watch things that the film school tells you to watch, and then like, oh, there's this cinema too. I didn't know that I thought that films are just like Gladiator and which is great, like, but those big great movies, that's what I thought filmmaking is. But then going that route and being kind of guided by the film school, it opened up to a different type of cinema, and a cinema that's also encouraging, because a lot of those movies are not done with insane budgets. So then you can say to yourself, you can be encouraged by that.
I can make that, or I can make something absolutely. Like that. I don't have $500 million to spend on this film,
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Oh, very cool. Okay, and then are there any upcoming films that you can tell us about that you're presently working on, secret projects?
We're working on a few things.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we're hoping to do is to maybe think about
like a feature version, loose adaptation, or not adaptation, but like that takes place in World War II. Now that we went through that experience on like how to make a World War II short film, it made us a little more comfortable in terms of like, at least in terms when it comes to the research and when it comes to the technical aspect as well. And the short film is 24-25 minutes, which is not too short as well. So that gives us that encouragement even more, because we feel more comfortable on like approaching that genre or that type of story in that period of time.
Yeah,
a little more like, it's just a muscle that we've flexed a little bit, and we don't mind. And actually, we might be even more passionate flexing it again.
Yeah. We're curious about those characters. They stayed with us.
Yeah.
It was a great way to dive in, as Rami was saying, and I think we'd like to continue. So that's one of the things that we're thinking about.
Yeah.
You guys definitely should. I can see some big projects coming out of that. So that'd be awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Rami and Nora, for being here today. We hope to see everybody back for more Q&As. for the other films. And thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.